we're back.
Oh, we're back.
So
Hi,
yeah,
everyone.
so the funniest story, what happened there was my son went into his bedroom and he was about to charge his iPad so he could play some games. He actually took the internet out of the wall.
Oh, bless his heart.
I know. So he's sat in there at the minute playing on his iPad whilst we get this chat done. So for anyone that's just joined us, I was just saying, just so I can get this started, a little bit about you, then I'll go back into your questions. So if you want to hear about yourself again, Nick, you'll be like, deja vu. All right. So Nick has enjoyed success firstly in his native Australia, then around the world. Charismatic Aussie started his TV hosting career on one of Australia's most popular music programs, Video Hits. He's had roles in Saturday Disney, Nickelodeon, alongside the Wiggles on ABC Kids. Popularity soared. Done so many highest rating children's shows at the time. Oh, there's so much, mate. Yeah.
Who wrote this? I think...
or I could just turn it around and say, okay, mate, in a nutshell, in 20 seconds, tell me your bio.
Well, I've been an actor, television host, radio, media type personality for about 30 years. I started in radio when I was 14 in Australia, on Australia's only commercial youth radio station. I started TV hosting when I was 18 on Video Hits, and then did Polygram, Nickelodeon, ABC Kids, bit of Channel 7 stuff. I worked on Home and Away through the late 90s with some amazing people like Heath Ledger and Isla Fisher and Kimberly Cooper.
And you've got to explain that.
Sorry?
Explain that, because if she looks at it and we both suddenly laugh, she'll be like, did I miss something?
No, Kim, it was because obviously I wanted to make sure that I would never forget to mention you in my long, stellar lineup of people that I've worked with. Yeah, so, and then I've done a lot of theatre, both as a performer and a producer. A lot of theatre in Australia, the UK, and here in the US. And I started the Australian Theatre Company here 5 years ago. I'm no longer with that company, but it was a huge undertaking, and it was a great opportunity for me to build a tribe over here in LA, an artistic tribe, not just of Aussies, of Americans and expats from all over. And now I've started my own little production company, which I launched with Ori, my first show about legendary Australian Hollywood costume designer Ori Kelly, and also I produce Short and Sweet Hollywood through my company as well, which is blown up over here. I really hope we get a chance to do it again this year. With all the theatres being closed, it's still a possibility it might not go ahead, but at this stage, it's due to open in September, so fingers crossed.
So people look like you.
That wasn't 20 seconds, was it?
Say again? No, that was more than 20 seconds. That was probably about, what, 1 minute. But that's okay, mate. That's okay. You have done a lot. And that leads into my first question, actually. So because you started out with acting, you found a love for acting. Now you've delved into the realm of producing, writing, directing, co-founder of production companies and your own shows. What people tend to see and attribute towards the campaign is the celebrity aspect or the public figure. And as I just said, I know you as Nick rather than what you do. But people who know you just from an on-screen persona or things that you've done, the transition between what people relate as you starting out to suddenly doing some of the biggest theatre production and TV and what they see online, how long is that process? I know you've said you've been in it 30 years, but say you was an actor and then found that you like writing or directing, you didn't just jump into that. How long was that process, and did you find out you just had a niche or a natural ability for those as well?
Well, I think that I'm by my nature a very curious person, and so whenever I started working, I was keenly aware of what other people were doing as a part of the process, whatever that was. And I wasn't always interested personally in ever pursuing what they did, but sometimes I was. And certainly I love having a greater hand in the overall creative process. I love that I have the ability as a writer or as a producer to harness other people's talents and elevate them, and to be a greater part of the storytelling, because ultimately, really, I think that's what I am. is just, you know, a storyteller, whether that's as an actor, a performer, a writer, or a producer.
Is there a certain, obviously you love them all, but is there, now that you've gone through the years, is there one that you kind of love doing? Do you prefer the creative directing these days, writing, or?
I think I'll always be a performer at heart. I'll always have that spirit. But I just think that it's also a little sign of the times right now. I just, there's only so much you can control as an artist, well, as a performer. And it's certainly not super easy to just get your own series together and pop it up on TV and away you go. But you know, but you can write and create. We all have the ability now to be broadcasters on a range of platforms. So the writing and creation element and producing has started to develop more and more in me. Plus, also, I love other performers. I love directors. So my ability to pull a group of really super talented and awesome human beings together and facilitate the birthing of a new show or a play or whatever, I live for that. And I've been doing that kind of thing for a really long time. I started putting shows on years and years and years ago. I started an Australian Talent Showcase in Australia, Australian Talent Showcase in the UK back in the 2000s. And that also sort of led me into starting the theatre company out here. I used to segment produce my own TV segments when I was working at the ABC. I did that when I was out here, when I got my first TV job for KCET out here in LA. We had to segment produce and everything. And so, yeah, I guess that's sort of developing more and more as I'm getting older.
Yeah.
More experienced.
And just going back to when you first started and you found a love for acting, did you find that you set yourself in good stead with a supportive network? I mean, again, a tribute to kind of the mental health well-being aspect. Within that industry, there can be a lot of disappointments, a lot of no's. Then there can be the good aspects. But what people tend to see, as I say, is the social media kind of thing. And ultimately, when you get a role, did you set yourself or anybody that may be in the entertainment industry that is going through these kind of feelings? What would you think?
Look, I really don't know how I would have coped being on television back then with social media, being very, very young and not having any family down in Sydney. I moved 2 days after my last HSC exam and went straight down there. I was super keen. I got straight into Night as Young Actors Studio, got an agent, started auditioning and started working straight away. And I didn't have a lot of friends, but thankfully some of my friends from school moved down to Sydney, which was great. And then I started making friends through work. I actually had a great side job working for SBS television as a switchboard operator, which was amazing. I loved that job. I made a lot of great friends doing that. And I learned a lot about the industry by being there, because being at the switchboard and out the front desk, these great directors would walk in, or producers or whatever, and they'd stop and chat to you. And sometimes they would, and you know, to see a little 18-year-old boy, you know, from Coffs Harbour sitting at the front desk a lot of the time, they'd be like, "Why are you here?" And then they'd end up telling me amazing stories. So I did develop one, but the truth is, I wasn't unemployed for more than like 6 weeks at a time through my 20s. I was very, very fortunate, and I'm glad that I didn't have YouTube or social media or anything like that back then, because I don't know how I would have been affected by it, especially when you see the trolling and the cyberbullying that takes place when you're a young person still developing as a human being as well as an artist, and you're that exposed. I don't know how well I would have handled it. But I had some great partners, and I was always in fairly safe kinds of relationships. But I haven't really experienced a lot of the mental health issues until I hit my 30s.
Right. Right.
And that's when it really started. I moved to London after breaking up with my female fiance because I fell in love with a man for the first time, and it was all very life-changing. I went to London and suddenly I was auditioning. Like, I was having more auditions in a week than I would have in a year. Like, it was like suddenly I was going to like 3 musical theatre auditions and a television audition and 2 commercial auditions in a week, and it was a full-time job to get prepared for these auditions to then get no feedback. And after having such a great career working in radio and television presenting and theatre, musical theatre, and the music in like, to suddenly go to London, and also the global financial crisis hit just after I got to London. So I did have some great gigs lined up that all went away. That's when I had to really start to deal with it, because I didn't have a huge support network in London, and I was not the hot young thing, and a lot of what I had done in Australia didn't really matter. Those credits weren't particularly relevant, and it was like starting from scratch. And I didn't do really well at all. I had some really dark days.
And how did you manage to get through those?
I was lucky that I had a couple of really close friends that I was accountable to, and that made me accountable out of their love for me, which was always, and you know, my family, my mum would come and visit me, and that was always very uplifting, that she'd travel to the other side of the world and we'd go holidaying. And I also, the people that I worked with took pretty good care of me as well. But that's really when I also started to develop my sort of creative entrepreneurial side. I started an Australian talent showcase with the High Commission, the Australian High Commission, and the Australian British Chamber of Commerce, called Sunday in the Apartment, which ended up running for 8 years. Right. And that allowed me to put on a show, you know, at least every 3 months. It was a bit more regular at first, but then it was every 3 months. But like, I'd work for those 3 months getting the best talent from Australia that was in the UK or touring, and we'd create a whole theme around it each time. And it was a beautiful variety / salon show, and we created an incredible community out of that. And so that sort of started to really lift me up, because I found some purpose, I found my people, and I found my passion. There you go, 3 Ps. 3
things. That's good. That's
good. People, purpose, and passion.
And I think sometimes we do go, because you said you hit your 30s and that's when you had your issues. I hit my 30s. That's when I had my issues. And I think sometimes you hear the generalized thing that when you turn 30, you're supposed to care less. Like, because ultimately a lot of people tend to get in their 30s, they've got their career or they've got their partner, they've got... It doesn't have to be like that. It obviously wasn't for us. But I think from that adversity, through yours, you found that creativity, you had that supportive network. Through mine, I think now I have found, and what's led to this campaign is my passion and my purpose and helping others. So I think out of adversity, they always say, and I think it attributes back to what we're going through at the minute, there is a positive in the negative sometimes. As much as we don't want to feel like that.
I think that a lot of what I went through in my 30s, you know, I was living abroad. I had to be resourceful. I became much more resilient, but I also became much more grateful and much more humble. You know, that kid in his 20s that was never unemployed and was like on television and getting paid really well. And I haven't really changed who I am at the core of myself, but I just didn't know any different back then. I didn't know what it was like to really struggle. I didn't know what it was like to face enormous amounts of rejection yet. I didn't know who I was with. My whole value system was totally out of whack, you know, whereas what I went through in London has led me to a point where I can place value on myself because of my kindness, my compassion, my empathy, and my ability to help others, but also my, you know, whether, you know, and that's not coming from an ego place. That's just that we all do. And, you know, that we are all worthy, that we all have something special to contribute. And I think getting to that has allowed me to be, I don't know, I just think I needed to go through those lessons to get to that place. And now I'm able to speak more freely about all of my my issues and my past, and understand others as well.
Yeah, and because you've seen so many people, and especially Australians, coming up through the ranks through Australia, and they're making the transition to LA, and I wouldn't say not having no clue, but again being kind of transitioning to a place on their own on visa, not knowing anything, not knowing a network. What advice would you give to anyone in those sort of positions in terms of, would you say always put your work on that before you try and work on?
You have to be ready to come over here, or you'll be in trouble.
Yeah,
I have seen people come over here. They've finished a long-running guest role on Neighbours or Home and Away or something. They're a little bit cashed up. They come over here. They hang out with everyone. They go to the events, and then they're taking drugs. They're blowing their dough. Because it's all a novelty, and the next thing you know, 6 months have passed, and they haven't booked anything, and they're freaking out because you probably won't book anything in 6 months. You need to have enough money so that you're not going to be financially stressed, because financial pressures are real and they have enormous impact on your sense of well-being and freedom and safety if you don't have enough money behind you, stuck in a foreign country. So you need to have saved up enough cash to get by for at least 3 months, because you may not book anything, and you need to get involved with some organizations, professional organizations, so that you can meet like-minded people. The great thing about LA, as opposed to what I've experienced in Sydney or London, not so much Melbourne, is that people will take the meeting and they will chat. I find that because the industry is bigger and there's more people, it's broader, there's a greater breadth of opportunity. People really want to hear your ideas.
yeah.
In fact, if anything, getting a no is really difficult. People don't want to say no. Hey, Mish, love you. That's something I found. I was like, oh my God, how hard is it? Can you, no is the second best answer. Sometimes they don't want to give you a no. But I'd say, make sure you got enough money, find your people, get involved in professional organizations, take every meeting and pull your head in. Don't go out partying too much. We've all done it. I've seen it done a million times. I really try and create a soft landing for anyone I know that's coming over from Australia. Plenty of people have stayed with me. Plenty of people have at least had lunch with me and hung out. When I was running Australian Theatre Company, we ran events that allowed people to come and get together and be involved in play readings, or come to our productions, or go to our galas and fundraisers. And so many people have created great friendships through that, which I'm really proud of. There's an organisation called Australians in Film, which have events and professional development opportunities. The Consulate holds events. APRA, if you're a singer, songwriter or musician of any kind, they hold great events. But it's really important not to get just too bogged down in the Australian expat world. That's not why you move to the other side of the world. You want to have that full experience being over here. But it does help just to have a soft landing to begin with. I wish I had something like that. Thankfully, the consulate general at the time, Karen Lanyon, she was great. The High Commission from the UK introduced me to her when I first got here, and what that meant was I was able to start working on G'day USA and hosting a bunch of their events, which I have continued to do up until this year. That helped me a lot.
Yeah. And how do you drown out the noise? Obviously.
Hey, Cameron Dado.
Hey?
Cameron Dado just joined.
How do you drown out the noise? So for any actor, and I wouldn't just say it's predominantly in the entertainment industry, it's across all industries, but for yourself, when there's a lot of competition and a lot of people going for the same roles and all that kind of stuff, again, attributing to well-being, how have you maneuvered yourself through detracting yourself away from the noise and just concentrating on you?
Well, I'm just getting distracted by the noise right now because I see Cameron Dado and Darren McMullen have joined, who are two of my favourite blokes in the world.
Darren McMullen's Irish, yes? Scottish.
Sorry, well, he's Australian.
My mother's half Scottish, so I apologise, mate.
How do I get through the noise? You know, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have to make a really huge effort to just try and take some time out. But I think it really just comes down to your intentions. Like, why are you doing this? You know, there is space for everyone. There really is. If I sat here and compared, what's that?
Irish name.
Oh, right, Darren. Oh, Darren. But yeah, getting through the noise and the competition. I mean, if I was one of those people, you just have to scroll through Instagram and you'd never leave the house. I mean, the guys that are, you know, my age, my kind of looks and background and whatever, I mean, I just go, God, I may as well not bother. You just have to continue to keep doing the work, make sure that you reinvest in yourself and your skills. And I try and stay in class as regularly as I can. If I can't get to class because I'm busy or whatever, it's because I'm working. And so, you know, that keeps the muscles flexed. I write a lot. I surround myself with good people.
Yeah.
Like Cameron Daddo, Darren McMullen, and Jackie Weaver, and people who I admire, not just because of their great work, but because of how they have navigated their own journeys. I think I always love being the least experienced in a room or the youngest, you know, just having the opportunity to learn from others.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things get me through.
You would really get, so I was talking to a mate of mine from LA. He's Michael Patrick Lane is huge name over there, but he said pretty much what you said there. He was like, how he's been so successful is surrounding himself and immersing himself by listening and watching other people.
Yeah.
Just giving his time to hone in on different crafts. And he said his advice for any aspiring actor would literally be drop the attitude if you've been on a show, like you said, and just act as if you don't know anything and learn it and immerse yourself in it.
Well, and don't you think that that's part of that journey that we were talking about going through your 30s? Part of it is realizing that you don't know anything.
Yeah.
What I always thought I peaked at 23. At 23, I thought I knew everything. I was, you know, overemployed. I was hosting a bunch of shows, plus doing like live gigs, and I was the face of this kids agency running talent development programs for them. I was hosting bikini competitions at night time for FHM magazine and what's it called? Inside Sport. I was hosting 2 shows on Nickelodeon, I think, and I just got a development deal with Fox, which was new. Fox Studios in Australia had just opened, and I got a 2-year development deal with them. And I just thought I was the shit. And then, of course, you get to your 30s and those huge changes that I was talking to you about before, and you just get to the end of it and you go, the more I see, the more I experience, the more I realize how little I know about anything. And that's a really liberating place to get to, because then you're like, okay, I'm open, bring it on. Teach me. Yeah.
But do you see the other side of it? So you see some of these young actors that have come over from, maybe because you've done the UK, you've done Australia, and you've done the US. Do you see some of these aspiring actors that come over who may have done like Home and Away or something, and come with this kind of, oh, everybody knows who I am. My agent in Australia is telling me I'll do this and this and this. Come to America and just go, boom, what, I've done nothing.
I know, yeah. Everyone thinks they're going to come over and be Margot Robbie. I mean, Margot Robbie she's a fantastic person. She's like, she's incredible looking, and she's a great talent. But she also did the work while she was at Neighbours. She was doing her dialect classes with Anna McCross and Owen. I don't know, however many times a week, but she was doing it constantly for those 3 or 4 years that she was on Neighbours. She was saving her money. She was doing her research. She was in class all the time. Like that sort of preparation is vital, you know, because then you get over here and you've given yourself the best shot. I didn't know that. I had no idea. You know, when I moved to London, I did it because it was the last chance I had to get my working holiday visa, because you have to get it by the time you're before you're 31. And I was just playing the lead in the big gay musical Priscilla, and I just released a record, and I've always worked in television, and I'd been on a soap that they knew. I just thought it was going to be super easy. You know, I had been working on my British accent forever, but other than that, I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. So, yeah, my advice is just reach out to people, and be prepared. Don't think that you're going to land over here, get representation straight away, and start going out for auditions. A lot of people I know are getting more self-tapes for US stuff in Australia than we are, you know, local people who are based here.
Yeah. Well, like I did notice, and I said it the other day, I was like, I know somebody who got told off the basis of doing a show here to get their A01 and go straight over there. And they went over and they've come back because they've not done nothing.
Yeah.
Now, they got an article coming out calling them the emerging actor, but they'd already been an actor in Australia, known. So to me, not being in the entertainment industry or really wanting to delve into that, because I think you do need to have a good support system. I just think it's something that is necessarily within that industry. And that's what people don't realize. But to me, I was saying to Michael the other day, wouldn't it make sense for you to kind of ride that success where you are and delve your foot into America?
You know, it's a very good question. And as you know, there is no ladder, no path to success in this business that is tried and tested. There's obviously examples of where you're correct. You should probably stay where you are and notch up a few more, you know, get a few more credits. But then there are other people who, like Margot, like basically went straight from Neighbours into Pan Am or wherever she went from there. Yeah, that's a difficult one. There are some agents now in Australia that have amazing relationships with US rep, and if you're with one of them, then that's great. You can get started on before you actually leave the country, putting a bit of a strategy together. But I remember one year, I think it was about 3 years ago, there was all this media attention around Australians having the most successful year ever in pilot season. It's when pilot season was still a thing. And it was huge news. And 26 Australians had been cast in leading roles in pilots. And that sounds like a lot. But there are thousands and thousands of us here. And, you know, I think that you just need to really have your expectations managed, because otherwise you are going to be in for a lot of disappointment and heartache. So
then I will put it to you now. We'll lead you to this question. So you guys are pretty much in lockdown in America.
Yeah.
I reckon it's imminent within 1 or 2 more days here in Australia. How are you and how are your friends, your network of friends, utilizing this time as if you're a creative?
Look, it's I definitely went a bit batshit crazy for a hot minute. We were all like doing like Zoom hangouts and happy hours at 5 o'clock, and just, you know, the first few days it was just like, what the fuck is happening? And we were, you know, and I think I was saying to you, if I continued down that path, I would probably die of liver cancer, like, or cirrhosis of the liver, before the coronavirus has any chance of reaching me. So now it's just about trying to find simple practices that are sustainable. And if that's like journaling, someone's going, I'm going crazy, I think that's just, yeah, I think sustainable practices, reaching out to people, staying connected is really important. If you can get outside and obviously remain socially distant, I'm trying to just do a walk out in the sunshine each day. It's been raining here in LA, which, you know, doesn't happen very often. We're always really grateful for it, but that's made it harder. I am fortunate that I've always got something to do as a creative. I mean, I've got a festival to put together, and I've got a show to continue to improve upon as a writer, and I'm getting on my Instagram and just sort of making content, doing a little story every day, and having a FaceTime chat with someone I love somewhere in the world. Where I've got a neighbor who's like 3 doors down, and we'll go out in the balcony and call each other and
did you see the viral video where like in Italy and all the European countries where they're singing?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Basically New York or like England, and there's someone singing and they're like, shut the
fuck up. That's exactly what happened when I went out and did it on my balcony.
It wouldn't work here, would it really? It's
no, but I think a dance party could be fun if everyone just went out the front of their front door and someone drove down the street with like their subwoofers like fully sick blaring, and everyone just went out the front and had a little dance. That could totally work in Sydney. That'd be fun.
Oh, it'd be amazing. Or it'd probably be a silent disco. Who cares?
How would you make that work? I don't know. Anyway, that's out of my depths. But yeah, I'm just trying to do a couple of things. I've got a little project I'm working on. I'm trying to devote a couple of hours to a day, and then it's a great opportunity to read. My nightstand is full of books that I've not gotten around to doing, so I'm trying to go to bed and read one of those. I'm also like, I'm not going to lie, I've
make jaffles.
I've been making jaffles every day and eating edibles because you can.
Yeah. I do think a lot of people are going to come out this maybe 5 kg heavier. But you know what? Sometimes you've got to have rest days. So.
Everybody, I think for our mental health, you know, we also have to forgive ourselves for the way that we cope with uncertainty. And it's all well and good to have these best intentions, but the truth is, it's uncertainty is scary, and that's a very real thing to be going through. And it's okay for you to feel that, and it's okay for you to, you know, to have a moment where you just go, oh, I don't know how I'm going to cope with this, and that's fine. As long as you're not creating behaviors, as long as you're not getting into habits that are harmful for you. That's the thing. So that's why it's important to have people that you connect with regularly that keep you accountable and that keep you on track. Just, you know, we don't want to be bashing up ourselves for doing things on top of not knowing what's going on.
Yeah. So I've got two, just finish off. I've got one question and then just one thing that you need to do.
One thing I need to do?
Yeah. So the question first would be to any aspiring actors out there stuck inside, wanting to ultimately make a transition to either UK or America, or whether they're just wanting to hone their craft or anything. What advice from someone who's been in the industry for 30 years and been successful and done a lot of things, whether that be acting, producing, writing, would you say do right now?
Now's the best time for you to write, journal, create your own content, invest in yourself, take some online classes, watch all of those films that you haven't watched, all of those classic great films with the best actors of all time. This is a gift for actors. This time is a gift of an opportunity for you to be able to just do some real work on yourself and on your craft, and maybe you'll come out the other side having written that play, that monologue, that short film, that concept, or created that character that's going to launch you into, you know, the world of cabaret or comedy or whatever it is. Make the most of this time to reinvest in yourself and your art.
Very good. And that probably, your last little thing there where you said invest your time into that character, would lead me into just asking you, what was the really big thing? I know the answer, but what was the really big production that you went on tour with?
Are you talking about Priscilla?
Do you want to go off camera and show everyone?
Oh,
there he is. Yeah, I'm just had to do that one, mate. So where can people find you or connect you with, mate, before we go?
Well, obviously, you can follow me here on Instagram. Hopefully you'll see me at the Marilyn Monroe Theatre from September fingers crossed. My love to anyone out there in the entertainment and hospitality industries in particular, just because, you know, these are my people. My love goes out to everyone, but I just know how they were the first affected, and we still don't know when we're going to be able to have gatherings of large people. There's a lot of people who can work remotely right now, or who can work in the business that they're in, but it's really uncertain times for people in the entertainment and hospitality industry. So just want to send my love and support. Hang in there. Reach out if I can ever be of any service to anyone. It'd be my pleasure.
Well, there's a couple of questions coming in, but so what I'll do, I'll send them through to you, and if you've got time, answer them. But
Sure.
On behalf of me and the campaign, mate, I want to thank you for all the stuff, and you're always pushing the campaign, so I really appreciate it.
No, I want to thank you, Glenn. Thanks for inviting me to be a part of it. It's something that means a lot to me. The conversations around mental health are really super important. I've lost friends in this industry to suicide. I've seen people crippled by anxiety. I've had my own experiences like that. And the more that we speak about it, the more we share, the more it's normalized, and the more pressure we take off of ourselves. And I think it's really, really important work. So thank you.
No, that's good, mate. Well, I will, hopefully when this thing is over, I'll be back in LA to keep your butt at goals. That's a good work out, mate. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and I will chat to you soon.
Thanks, Glenn.